Welcome. Time for another edition of ACC Baseball Etc. As always, presented by our good friends at Pitch Logic, the system used by players, coaches, scouts, and instructors at all levels of play, from youth leagues to the big leagues. The easy-to-use and affordable technology makes the platform accessible to every player at every level. All the metrics and features used at the highest level. You can go to pitchlogic.com for more information. We are, roughly 2 weeks into the college baseball season. Danny Graves is here. I'm Daron Vaught. We've got some stuff to talk about. But first and foremost, Gravy, how we doing? You were in Chicago last week. No hockey shenanigans with your son, but I know he got some TV time, right?
Yeah, he did. So I go up there and I get to talk about Major League Baseball a little bit when I go to Chicago. And then they actually let me talk about some hockey, some NHL stuff. And then they asked me if I had any pictures of my son playing hockey. And I'm like, do I have pictures of my son playing hockey? You want to see? So I showed them, and then they said, why don't we do a segment on that? So we did a whole segment on hockey and some NHLers that I think that he should be following. And it was great, man. So he got a little bit of TV time. Yeah.
Nice. Love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
He loves TV time too.
Gets it honest, I guess. Sure.
Yeah.
Well, nice. Okay, cool. So we've got some things to get into. And Drew Burress, the standout freshman for Georgia Tech, we got to get him a cool, buzzy nickname.
Yeah.
So here's the deal. Tommy White, in his first year for NC State, hit 9 home runs in his first 8 games. That probably was not the very first time he had ever been referred to as Tommy Tanks, but that's kind of what brought that to light and made, quote, Tommy Tanks a thing. Drew Burress, through his first 8 games in his career, has 9 home runs, including 4 earlier this week in their midweek against Georgia State. It is only fair. We are a show of fairness and equity, right? It's only fair that we give him a cool nickname to go with that. The problem is, typically you lean on alliteration with this sort of thing, like Tommy Tanks. They both start with a T. Drew's first name it's not conducive for that, right? There aren't a ton of applicable words that begin with DR.
Right.
So we've got to workshop some things. That's coming in a little bit. I need to brag on some people and some things, and our umbrella entity, which is D1 baseball. So over the weekend, I was in Jacksonville, and Peak Events, partnering with D1 Baseball. Peak Events puts on these early season tournaments like the Jax Classic, JAX, to be edgy and cool. But D1 Baseball streamed the games exclusively, including the Carbach Round Rock Classic, which went off really well as well. But I wasn't at that one, so I can't speak as much to it. Man, the Jax Classic was such a great experience. So cool.
Yeah. Who cares about the Round Rock one right now? Because you weren't there, but you were there with Kyle Peterson, with KP, our guy. I need to know. I need to know everything that went down. How'd you like it? Like, what was it like working with KP?
Could not have gone better, honestly. And I mean that, like, I probably would say that anyway, admittedly, right? But I mean it. He was so great to work with. And we both got there Thursday. Games started on Friday. We went and got dinner, found this pizza spot that also had wings, and he got the wings, and they were surprisingly good too. But he and I, we did not come into the weekend really knowing each other that well.
Right.
We had talked a little bit here and there, but it for sure had never worked games together. And it was a lot of just kind of like getting to know each other and that sort of thing. So we had dinner the night before. We had 3 hours combined of rain delays the first day. So like we had plenty of time
you did.
to like get to know each other up in the booth, right? He was awesome. And, you know, I think we kind of fit organically, right? And it worked out really well. And I thought we sounded great. It's cool to get praised from external sources, right? Other people saying that we sounded good. And I'm appreciative of that. But man, it could not have gone better. In terms of like directly me and him, it was awesome. It was a lot of fun. Joe Healy was there and popped in for an inning or two, you know, every day. Stephen Schock.
You know Joe Healy from before, right? You already knew him?
Correct. Yeah. And same with Stephen Schock. So, but he came on for, you know, a couple innings a day up until the last day, and we had no clue where he was. It was hard to tell. I know he was doing interviews with some of Iowa's players in a hot tub at the hotel at one point. So he was all over the place.
Tell me, before we go any further about KP, I want to know, like, he jacked up his scorebook. Was that your scorebook or KP's scorebook?
It was all right. So it was KP's, and we just rather than having him join me and KP, it was just to give Kyle a breather. And Kyle was just like wandering, and like he was like, I'm going to go sit in the stands and enjoy this one as a fan, because I don't get to do that much, right? So Schock sits down, and out of respect for KP and trying to keep him up to date with what's going on for when he pops back in, Schock just like starts keeping score in KP's scorebook. He did it for the wrong team for like an inning. So it was flipped, right? Like whatever the game was, it would have been one of the Virginia games. So like if it was Virginia batters doing it, he had it noted as the other team was the one doing that at the plate. So, and it was just so quickly, and even on the air, Schock like turned to me and he was like, "Uh-oh, I screwed up."
Oh my gosh.
Chaotic, but awesome. It was.
So what was your reaction when KP came back, and like, did anybody say anything right away, or did y'all just let him like look at it and find out on his own?
No, that was Schock's battle. I was not about to be the one to let him know. I was like, you can let him know. Like it's your decision that he just finds out, you know?
Yeah.
Or just realizes, or he just says the wrong things about what batters did if he doesn't remember it, you know?
Yeah. Because he's like, I don't remember that happening watching as a fan, but my book says it happened this way.
Right. When did Griffo Farrell home run? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That is so awesome.
It was great. It was great. And like we played it at 121 Financial Ballpark is the name of the site. It is the home of the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. Their staff was awesome.
What a name.
First time working with the Peak Events crew. They were great. Man, it was just such a great weekend. And we got awesome games. Night one, I mentioned the rain delays, but Virginia walked it off to finish our day at like 1 a.m. against Wichita State. Like, awesome game. Nice. They set up the scheduling, I think, strategically so it was 2 games a day, basically round robin. And they were going to name a champion based on the record and head-to-heads. But our final game of the final day was Auburn and Virginia, who both happened to win both of their first games. So they went into that one 2-0. So it was a de facto championship game, which was great for us because we could sort of build it up like that. And it was, we knew what was at stake for that game, which is cool. And that was a 2-run game. Virginia won. Just a really, really awesome event. I think I unofficially got asked to do it again next year. So cool. There's always going to be an ACC team at this thing also. So I'm happy to do it going forward and pretty fired up.
We can keep plugging that you were unofficially invited to do it again. So then when people see this over and over and over again, they're going to realize that they did invite you to do it again.
Yeah, that's it, right? Like I think it was implied in several cases, but never explicitly firmed up. So we're just going to wait on that. We got a long time. It's like a year away. So
plenty of other things before that. But the thing about KP, like, you don't ever have to have met him before, but he treats you like he's known you for years. He's just he's so laid back, dude. Like, it's almost like, this is my boy and I don't even know him yet. You know what I mean? Like, that's how we've always been that way. And he's just such a chill dude. And when I first got into this business, like, I would randomly just text him, "Hey, can you tell me about this team and about this guy?" And like right away he would say, "This is what I got on him." And like, he was so eager to help me out getting into it, you know? So I'm so glad that worked out well for you guys.
Yeah. It was a blast. We had so much fun and like joking around. It almost felt like, I've been from a play-by-play standpoint, I've been in basketball mode where it's just fast paced and the game dictates kind of where you go with it.
Yeah.
Most of the time you can have fun with it and you can joke around and do some silly stuff on basketball, but it's not the way you do with baseball. Like, we were joking around so much just based on like the in between inning promotional stuff that the Jumbo Shrimp did, talking about all kinds of stuff. The food that we ate while we were there, the concessions food. KP bought. Joe Healy and I commented when Joe was on with me about it presented as like a funnel cake smell, which was just like, it was so strong all weekend long. And we caught whiffs and whiffs of it up in the booth. And Joe and I were like, man, we got to go get a funnel cake. So the last day when Joe was in with me, KP went out and looked for the funnel cake, which apparently was not being sold. So we were fooled. Like our noses were deceived. But there were churros being made.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure I smelled funnel cake, but it's a beautiful sentiment that he bought us churros and brought them up.
Well, yeah, but I mean, they're not that much different. Like it's just a ton of sugar and something fried. I mean, it all smells the same when it's sugar and fried, basically, right?
And I guess you're right. The base of a churro, right before like the cinnamon sugar, is it really that different than the base of a funnel cake?
Probably not. The funnel cake is just a little bit like lighter and more airy, right? Like air wise.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right. But otherwise it might even be the same stuff. I don't know. I don't make funnel cakes or churros.
We just eat them.
I just eat them. I eat them.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, I love to eat them. So that was a greatly appreciated gesture.
Nice.
But in terms of the tournament, it was like really good baseball. Obviously, that's what these peak events tournaments do. They bring together. Like, I got to watch Gravy. You'll appreciate this. I got to watch Brody Brecht in person pump 102 miles per hour for Iowa and tunnel it perfectly with his slider. And like, look, he might not be 1-1 come draft time, but if that dude locates at all, nobody's hitting him. His struggles, like his bad outings this year, and I know this isn't an ACC player. We'll get to the performance by Virginia, but like if Brecht hits his spots, he's not going to have bad outings because people hit him. Like they're just not. You're not going to get hits off of him. His bad outings are going to come with like, okay, I walked 3 in a row, and then a wild pitch brought 1 in, and then they got a knock and brought 2 more in. Right, like that's a bad inning for Brody Brecht. If he's in the zone, you just like there's nothing you can do. Nothing.
Really. So I mean, just hearing you describe him, it sounds a lot like what Chase Burns went through his last year at Tennessee. Well, last season, where
it's very similar. Very similar, right?
Effectively wild at times, but then they move him to the bullpen, and that's where he started to find it again. Or even like a Paul Skeens, you got that kind of stuff, but you still got to throw it over the plate, you know?
And KP even said watching him that the stuff was Paul Skeens like.
Yeah.
He's like the freakish thing about Skeens is that he's accurate.
He threw strikes.
He's got pitchability, right?
Yeah. And he
Brecht
might
is
make
not-
that team too, by the way, in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, I think he should. But anyways.
So that was like, that stuck out to me. Auburn's a really good team. Auburn's a really good team. That was fun to cover. Virginia, here's my bottom line on Virginia. Griffo Farrell did not play well. Ethan Anderson, overall, he got a home run and had a couple more productive ABs, but overall did not hit well. Harrison Didowick started the weekend 0 for 11 or 12.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're guys, they're top guys. Now, like Casey Salke had a great weekend. Henry Ford is a freshman for Virginia, who KP kept saying he's a big leaguer. He's a big leaguer. He's a big leaguer. Like KP raved about Henry Ford, and he hit really well. Salke, Ford, and Henry Godbout, who's their second baseman, who I really, really like.
Mm-hmm.
He hit really well too. But like
6 doubles already this year, I see.
Yeah. So, but like up at the top of their pecking order, it's Griffo Farrell and Ethan Anderson, right?
Yeah.
And Harrison Didowick had a great freshman season for them last year and already has 3 home runs on the season entering this event. And like those dudes did not hit.
And they're 7-0 without those guys hitting.
And they went 3-0 on the weekend against, Wichita State, Iowa, and Auburn. So Jack O'Connor got touched up his start. It just didn't. It doesn't have to go perfectly to plan for Virginia to win, and that was the most impressive thing to me about them going 3-0 for the weekend, because they don't like Chase Alsop is a guy who's has control issues at times, but he's got elite stuff for Auburn, and that's their ace. They've got Joseph Gonzalez, who was All-American a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like they've got those two in their rotation. Iowa has 3 guys who are aces. They've got Brody Brecht and then 2 other guys who are aces literally anywhere else in the country as their starting rotation. Yeah. And this is not a knock on Jack O'Connor or Evan Blanco as starting pitchers for Virginia, but they're just not that. They're not what those other guys are. They're very good pitchers, but they're not that. So Virginia made it work in ways that won games. It's just, it's textbook Brian O'Connor team type stuff.
You said it. Yep.
I came away so impressed with them. It made me feel really good when we talked about, okay, if not Wake Forest, then who wins the ACC? It made me feel really good about my Virginia pick. Yeah. And I don't even think they really played that well.
Right. Well, it says something when you play poorly and you still find ways to win. You go back to even thinking about guys that are pitchers. If you don't have your good stuff, you still find ways to win. You're an ace. That's what aces do. Your stuff is still good enough to win. So Virginia, they got these guys. You mentioned Ethan Anderson didn't do anything. He was one of our picks to click basically and have an awesome year. But we did both mention Casey Salke. We agreed that he was going to have a monster year, and he's off to a good start. But that's Brian O'Connor, man. He finds ways to get these guys to get the best out of them. Whether it's a couple guys one day and a couple guys the next day, they find ways, man. And 7-0 and not playing well, this could be a real scary team.
Yeah, I think so. And they're not even shored up as far as what roles are within their pitching staff. So they had it was a TBA on Sunday situation, which again turned out to be a championship game for them, and they made it work.
That worked out good.
Jay Woolfolk was taken out of the starting rotation for this weekend because he pitched so poorly in his start in week 1 against Hofstra. Mm-hmm. But see, on the all-tournament team, he got relief pitcher of the tournament. He came in relief
Mm-hmm.
and stemmed the tide. Pitched a career high 4 1/3, I think it was. It was a career high 4 1/3 out of the bullpen, and struck out, I think, 5, which was also a career high.
Yeah, and he was on the ballot for pitcher of the week.
Yeah, he looked really good.
Pitched so well out of the pen,
which made me happy because I like Jay. I've been pretty upfront about that. I like Jay a lot. I want to see him succeed.
Yeah. Well, so
and if he wants to start, I want him to be able to start, right? Like if he wants to be a starter for this Virginia team, I want him to be able to have that. The question is that what's in Virginia's best interest? Because he did really, really well in that leverage situation and getting them to stay in a game where initially it didn't look like they were going to stay in a game.
Well, the thing with that, and I've been on both sides, and I feel like maybe going into his start against Hofstra, sometimes you overthink. Sometimes you feel like as a starter, you have to try to save some bullets, and then you start thinking about how to pitch to guys and how did I get this guy out before, or should I save some my good stuff for later? You know what I'm saying? Like all these things go into your mind, but then when you go into the bullpen and they say, okay, get up, you're in. Well, that's what Jay is used to be. He's used to doing that. Like just get up and throw and you're in. So you don't have time to think about that stuff. And he ends up going 4+. Well, maybe it's that kind of outing that he needed that's going to help him succeed as a starter, because now he realizes that, oh, I can throw 4+ innings and not have to sit there and think about, okay, am I going to save some energy, conserve this or that, or am I going to, all these different things go through your mind as a starter. As a reliever, you just get it and go. So now I think if I would have any advice for him as a starter, go as long as you can, as hard as you can. And that's it. Make it simple. Once you start getting a good feel, then you can start planning. But to me, this guy's got such a great arm. I think if he stays in this rotation, which I think we both agreed earlier that it would be a good move for him, success is going to come. It's not going to be something that he's going to have right away, obviously. But, man, it would be awesome for this team if he can get going in that rotation, have as a weekend starter.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how that's handled by Virginia. And look, we all know that the ACC starts soon. Yeah. So, if they don't have it figured out by the beginning of conference play, I'm not worried about them in that sense, but it's about time to be locking some of those things in. If you're going to be a team with Omaha type aspirations, which they 100% should be and are.
Yeah. Do you have their schedule up right now? Like who do they have next weekend series? I'm trying to pull it up.
Yeah, we'll pull it up.
Because I really believe like if he proved to himself that he can throw 4 solid innings, throw him right back into the rotation, throw him back into the fire in the weekend game and try to get him rolling again. This is the time to do it anyways, because you're not in ACC play yet. This is time to get going or try to get him going.
So they've got UMass this weekend at home. A couple of midweeks, Penn State, shout out Mike Gambino. They're actually off to a kind of a surprisingly good start. It's the Mike Gambino special stuff in his
shocker
water ball. Yeah, right. So they've got a couple of midweeks versus Penn State at George Washington in DC, and then they begin ACC play at Miami.
So exciting.
But then week 2 of ACC play, they host Wake Forest. I remember KP said he's got the Saturday game of that one on ACCN, and they're on site.
I saw that. I saw the schedule for that.
He's going to be in Charlottesville for that one. He was pumped. So then they're at Pitt. At Duke is an intriguing series. They host North Carolina. At Louisville. Anyways,
Yeah, sorry, my ADHD is kicking in. You mentioned North Carolina. They didn't play great. They haven't played great either. I mean, they've played solid. I should take that back. I know ECU is a very good D1 program, and they beat them the last 2 games, but I don't feel like the North Carolina's pitching has been what they've expected it to be yet.
Well, I mean, they're also throwing guys into the fire.
Yeah.
Their Friday guy is Folger Boaz,
who's been great.
who's been great. But the Knapp injury really did them in.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was tough. I mean, it was always going to be tough to kind of have the pitching figured out. But like, I think that's what makes them intriguing is that, to me, Danny, North Carolina is just going to get better as the year goes on.
Right.
I mean, that's like against VCU in the midweek this week. They had a true freshman go 5 no-hit innings against VCU, which is a pretty good program over the past handful of years, especially. He ended up 6 innings, an earned run, 3 hits, a walk, 3 strikeouts over 95 pitches. Jason DeCaro is his name. And not only is Jason DeCaro a true freshman, Jason DeCaro is 17 years old. If I'm not mistaken, he's the youngest rostered player in all of Division I baseball.
17, huh? He's got to be turning 18 soon. I have their roster right here. Right? Like he's got to be turning
birthdays, but I would imagine, yeah.
Dude, he can't even vote yet. And he's 6'5", 225, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, he does not. It does not play like 17 years old. And he's, he'll touch 95, but he's low to mid 90s. He's got a changeup that is like 88 to 90.
Must be nice.
It's pretty good stuff. Pretty good stuff. But like he's assumedly he's only going to get better. And that's a good sign for them. It's just not right away. You wonder how that's going to play against an ACC team. What's his first ACC start going to look like? Not that he can't have a great season at 17 years old into 18 years old. But it's TBD. It's a lot of TBD. Whereas you knew what Jake Knapp was going to get you.
Yeah. So DeCaro pitched against VCU this week. Is that okay? All right. So, I mean, we won't see him over the weekend. Not yet, anyways. Maybe by the time ACC starts.
Yeah.
I mean, at least not this weekend series.
Yeah, he might. I think he's certainly a candidate to work his way into the rotation for conference play. And if not, he'll be a big piece. If he's throwing like that, you got to play him in ACC games.
Right.
So yeah, like they're coming around. It's going to be a work in progress for them. It's the good news is for North Carolina, like they're going to score runs.
Yeah. Especially, we know Vance Honeycutt's going to hit and Casey Cook's going to hit, but
he's healthy. ACC Player of the Week, 3 home runs, 2 of them were like game winners. So Vance
1
is
grand
back.
slam. Yeah. Asuna's hitting. Alberto Asuna's hitting. Yeah. Some bombs. He's hitting 350, 360. So that's huge pluses for North Carolina. They could be real scary. And we wondered why they were one of the only other teams to get votes, right? And this is obviously why, because we know they're going to put up some runs. And you talk about their arms. Dalton Pence in the bullpen is filthy.
Yeah.
So a lot of good stuff happening.
Yeah, they're really intriguing. Really intriguing. All right, should we get to brainstorming this Drew Burress nickname situation?
Yeah. Why not?
We've gotten some suggestions on Twitter, X, whatever you call it.
Whatever you want to call it.
I'm indifferent. I'm not going to lose my mind if you don't call it one or the other. But we've got some suggestions.
Mm-hmm.
I got to be honest. Not many good ones.
I'm glad you said it first.
Well,
I love the one that the guy says, somebody said, well, it's in his Twitter name. And you're like, what, Drew_Burress 08 or whatever?
Because his handle is at Drew_Burress 08. I was like,
Yeah.
are you insinuating you want us to call him underscore? Like
underscore?
What are we calling him? So
underscore. Yeah.
Blasty Burress, the Burr Bomber, Drew Dingers, but see, I think it's misled, right? They're D's, but they both start with a D, but that's not alliteration. We need something. We need something crisp. Big Fly Burress has some potential.
Yeah, I think I said that.
Big Fly Burress. That was from our friend at Shot Nixon on Twitter, which is, I don't know what the story is behind that handle, but could be funny. The Burgess of Atlanta, which is more confusing than anything because his name's not Burgess, it's Burress.
Right. So I put 3 on there. One was Bombzilla Burress.
Yeah.
Big Fly Burress. And then our friend Mike Farron says, you're not even trying. So then I just put hashtag Babe Burress.
Oh, like Babe Ruth. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think I'm going to read some more of these off that will not qualify, but I think we've got two good nominees.
Okay. What do you got?
Some of the other nominations, Drew Daggers, which sounds more like a basketball thing.
Yeah.
Drew Dingers, again, you're being misled about what alliteration is. Drew Burr, as in like cold.
Like Joe Burr?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So, right, there's something there. Drew Burr. Drew Cool, like that could work. That's sort of an off the board thing. All right, so I like here are the 2 that I think have legs.
Okay. Big
Fly Burress.
Uh-huh.
And this one I've got mixed feelings about, but it's got potential. This is from at GT Fan Guy.
Mm-hmm.
Go figure.
Yeah.
Drew Barrels. Because Burress sounds like barrels. Now, I will say, I'm going to...
There was a Barrels that was in... Who was he? Who did he play for? Was it Louisville a couple years ago? Or Virginia Tech?
My point, you're hitting my point.
Okay.
Barrels is a little overused.
Yeah.
Like even at the Jax Classic, I had Auburn. They've got a guy who's been there a bajillion years now, Bobby Pierce, and he goes by Bobby Barrels. Well, he doesn't go by it, but people call him Bobby Barrels.
Yeah. Oh, it was NC State, their leadoff hitter. I can't think the last year they went to the College World Series. I can't remember his name now, but yeah, barrels. You don't have to barrel it up to hit a homer. Sometimes homers just get out,
and sometimes you barrel it up, and it's a double in the gap. Sometimes you barrel it up, and it's an out up the middle, and sometimes you barrel it up, and it's right to the third baseman.
Yeah. I thought about Downtown Drew, but that's not the dr sound. And downtown is almost like basketball, right?
Kind of, yeah. Although, have we talked about this? So I was known in high school and college as Downtown Daron Vaught.
Really?
Yeah. So I got to college, and I went to college where I went to high school, small Division III school, and I went there to play baseball. So people from the area, and we had a lot of local guys on the team, right? It's kind of like a regional college. So we get there, and some of the guys who aren't familiar with the area hear one of the guys call me Downtown. And it's like when we first got there, and they're like, man, Downtown, you guys call him Downtown? This dude must hit bombs. Because like the Major League 3 character, what's his name? Chris Anderson, who plays for the Buzz in Major League 3. They call him Downtown Anderson or whatever because he goes downtown.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, it was a basketball nickname because I was a good 3-point shooter. And so I totally misled them because here I go wide stance, just sort of like slapping it all over the field and running things out. Right? It's like no, that's not.
He's saving they're saving his downtown for the games. Not
that's not my game at all. But downtown is what stuck. So
nice.
I don't hate downtown because of the personal sentiment, but it just doesn't work, right? Like my name's not Daron. It worked because my name's Daron.
Right. Downtown. I guess I was called downtown sometimes because of my nightlife, but that doesn't count here. So we got to think of some good ones. I mean,
I think leader in the clubhouse right now is Big Fly Burress.
Yeah. I mean, I do like that.
I like it. I don't know that we could do better. I think we should let it breathe. We should.
Yeah. We can post something again and really try to get more legs on it. But Big Fly Burress, I'm okay with Bombzilla Burress too, because I don't say Bombzilla as often anymore. So I mean, I tried it with Bombzilla Brock Wilkin last year. Nobody bought into it because of the BR and Brock. Maybe that's why it didn't catch on.
True. Because the alliteration is very important in this. It's why Tommy Tanks works. It's why.
Ooh, Buggy Whip Burress. No, I'm just throwing stuff out there now.
I was trying to think of DR stuff.
Both of us are going to get text, by the way, from Mike Farron after he listens to this, because I know he's going to hammer me with all these silly names, but
I believe it. it. I was trying to think of the DR words like druh. And like somebody could drub a baseball, right? Like, but Drubby Drew, like we're not going to call him that.
That sounds a little like a worm under the ground, like a grub or something.
All right, so suffice it to say, leader in the clubhouse is Big Fly Burress, but we are open to suggestions.
Yeah.
So hit us up at ACC BSB ETC, just as it is in our logo, on Twitter, Instagram, etc. You guys know how to find us too, at Daron Vaught, at dgravy 32.
Yep.
So send us your suggestions. What do we call Drew Burress? I don't know. We got to find something.
Yeah.
Danny, anything else from the first couple of weeks that you feel like needs to be mentioned?
I was asked yesterday by Mark Packer, who does ACC PM for ACC Network daily. He was asking me what's up with Louisville, because they're the only team in the ACC that is below 500. And I honestly had to tell him that I hadn't seen them this year, but there's too much history in that program that I don't see them continuing to struggle. Have you seen any of their games or any of their recap?
I admittedly have not. I just got put on my schedule. I've got Louisville at North Carolina later in the year. That's like a May series, though. It seems to me they're just in a tough spot. Like they recruit well, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, Dan McDonald, when he came on to do his preseasoning conversation, did a really good job of convincing me that last year it was injuries that cost them. St. Bonaventure's bad, man. Like, you dropped one to St. Bonaventure, who's picked to finish last in their conference and won only 8 games a year ago. Like, that's a bad look. That's a bad look. And it's like, when you're doing that in the non-con, it's tough for me to bail you out by saying it's a really good program, but the ACC is just really good right now. Like, you got to win those non-conference games in order to give us a chance to talk about your program in that way.
Yeah.
I have not seen them, but I'm interested too, because it's I know they've got talent. Like they have really good recruiting classes year after year. I don't know if maybe, and you can speak to this in terms of being on a team that has a losing record and like a team that's not accustomed to losing, just sort of losing suddenly, or a group of guys who all individually aren't really accustomed to losing, suddenly being on a losing team, and like what that can do to a mentality and a culture sort of surrounding it. For the guys who were there last year, which is a lot of them, it might just kind of be lingering, the feeling from it, and like it's tough to break out of, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the roster. They still got some guys from their team a year ago, and they're pitching. I mean, Carson Liggett was one of their main guys, right? And he's off to a bad start. They got some guys that are looking at their stats that are hitting the ball and they're scoring some runs, but they're just not pitching. At least they're starters. Well, then I look at the bottom and some of their bullpen has been really giving it up too. So I would say by just looking, it's the pitching staff is not good right now. Yeah. And maybe they're just a little behind. Who knows? I guess we can give them the excuse that it's early still. But yeah, but that St. Bonaventure, that's tough. That's tough to swallow.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, like, we'll see. We know it's a long season. Mm-hmm. Teams are going to be different later than they are now. Mm-hmm. It's just, man, it's tough because that's such a good program, and Coach Max put them in such a good place. I would hate to see them struggle 2 years in a row. That would be a bummer for the league. And like at the same time, and again, this is what comes into play when we're able to, quote, make excuses for them once we get into conference play. It's just like, okay, somebody's got to lose games. You know, there are a lot of ACC teams that we really, really like. At the end of the day, like, they're all going to be playing each other. Somebody's going to have to lose these games.
Right.
So they can't all be, somebody asked me about, the number of potential regional teams in the ACC the other day. And it's like, I mean, there are elements to every single one of them. I'm like, in my mind, I know there are 12 that could make a regional. But I know I have to temper that expectation because I know for a fact that's not going to happen because they all play each other and they will affect each other's records and stuff like that. But they're one of those teams coming into this year. They've got way too much talent to not at least be on the radar as a regional team. And I mean, there's a very small number of teams who we don't feel that way about in the ACC.
Right. And just to clarify, they did win their last game, their weekday game. So they're 4-4. So now everybody in the ACC is 500 or better. But at the time that I was on the ACC PM show, they had a losing record, and it was the only team in the ACC. But let's use the excuse that it's early still for that.
I think that's safe. It's still a pretty young team too. Some of the key pieces. So, it'll come around.
Coach Mack will figure it out. Not worried about him.
For sure not.
Yeah.
How'd you feel about ACC Player of the Week voting this week? Vance Honeycutt, player; Jamie Arnold, pitcher of the week.
I mean, why don't you go ahead and put Vance Honeycutt in every week? And a lot of times you're going to be right. Like, you can put him in now for the rest of the year, and you can be right a lot. It's great to see Vance Honeycutt out there healthy, and in the leadoff spot. I feel like
someone was listening to us.
Yeah. That's what I was getting at. So leadoff spot. I love him in the leadoff spot. But Jamie Arnold. Both Florida State pitchers have won pitcher of the week the first 2 weeks of the season. They just might strike out the world and lead all of baseball in strikeouts. These guys, Cam Leiter and Jamie Arnold, whatever they're eating, whatever they're doing in their off time, they're getting ready and they're balling when they get the ball out there in their starts. So I will tell you, and maybe you can explain the voting process and who's part of that voting process. But yeah, I voted both pitchers I voted for the last 2 weeks have made it. Position players have not.
Interesting. See, both players I voted for. So Danny and I got asked prior to the season starting to be on this committee to vote for player and pitcher of the week, which we of course said yes to.
Yes.
It's been interesting being like in the inner workings of that. So both of my votes, player and pitcher in week 1, got it. So it was Cam Leiter as the pitcher, Peyton Green of Georgia Tech as the player. Week 2, neither of my 2 picks got it. I, to some's dismay, did not vote for Vance Honeycutt for player.
Well, I didn't either.
Or Jamie Arnold, who was awesome. And maybe this is. I'd be curious to know like the human nature aspect of how people vote outside of my own head. Which is why I'm kind of curious about you, right? Before we started rolling, I was asking you about how you are voting and that sort of thing. Jonathan Santucci was on the ballot for Duke for a second consecutive week, just like another gem, 6 innings, really high quality pitching. I went with him as my vote for week 2. He's going to be on there maybe every week, right? Yeah. As Duke's guy, because he's going to give you 6. He's going to give you maybe 10 strikeouts,
a bunch of strikeouts. Yeah.
Give up a run or 2, maybe. More often than not, Tooch is going to be on that list.
Yeah.
And now that I'm thinking about it, maybe this is why I voted this way. Daniel Cuvée from Miami.
Yeah.
Also was on the ballot in week 1. And I thought had a really, really good week 2. So I voted for him as well. And I don't, in the moment, it wasn't me thinking, oh, I'm voting for them because of their first 2 weeks of the year. I just was looking at the numbers and it was like, okay, cool. Yeah, let's do that.
I voted for Cuvée too for player. I thought what he did the whole week, minimal strikeouts, a ton of hits, some homers, did just about everything. And I thought he had a good chance to win, but you look at Honeycutt, I think the home runs, the big home runs at the right time, that does help a lot of voters, go in that direction. But
I don't want to get into a place. And again, these were high quality home runs. They're not just, you can't view them all the same. I don't want to get into a place where we give it to the guy who hits the most home runs.
Right. I think because they were meaningful though. They weren't just like homers.
Yeah.
A couple were to even take the lead or win the game, and one was a huge grand slam. I'm just guessing that's why maybe he got more votes.
Yeah, no, and maybe that's on me for looking at it as more of like on the surface, because I saw his 6 strikeouts for the week, his no stolen bases, and his caught stealing once for the week, and it was just kind of like, okay, yeah. And part of that's maybe on Vance, right? In a weird way, it's like
the standard is too high.
I'm holding it against him that he could have done more, right? It's like, wait, I didn't steal a base? Like, that's right. I don't need to do it that way, right? So, kudos to Vance Honeycutt for his first player of the week of the season. That's the preseason player of the year in the conference. Just he's going to be right up there with Kurtz and who knows who from Virginia. It's going to be interesting to keep an eye on. Like, that's the other thing that I think about is like how these weekly awards will ultimately affect the annual awards with the player of the year and pitcher of the year. But you got to view them separately, right? Like that's.
Yeah. You got to try to anyways. Canarella is going to be on there quite a bit, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. That's a name we didn't even mention, but So anyways, I'm glad you're comfortable talking about who you voted for, because I feel like we'll probably do that every week. As like a conversation starter. It's a good way to do it.
Well, I'll tell you who I'm voting for now for next week. Drew Burress.
But see, again, sure. I don't want to get into the trap of he hit a lot of home runs. If he hits even one more home run this weekend and is not abysmal at the plate, yeah, probably. I get it. I understand that.
Well, he's probably already got more home runs than anybody's going to hit the rest of the week. I mean, some guys are hitting 3 on a weekend series. He hit 4 in one game. Like that doesn't happen.
Right.
So we'll see.
No, we'll see. I'll be interested to see because like now we're conditioning ourselves to look at numbers by the week in these cases. Now I have like a frame of reference in terms of like, okay, what's a good week? And if he can put together a decent weekend, he's going to have a pretty big week of stats.
Yes.
In a case for ACC Player of the Week. So let's wrap up with Hall of Name.
All right.
So
let's do it.
Hall of Name is the part of the program where Danny, the former college and big league closer, closes out the show by giving us a glimpse into his life as a player. I name a former teammate or foe of his. I think I'm in the process of bending the rules a little bit here.
Well, etc. That's part of it.
Yeah. I name a former teammate or foe of Danny's, and he just goes word vomit. What first things that come to mind? What do you associate with that person? Interactions with that person? How you fared in appearances against that person if they are a hitter? I've got one of those, and it's not a former teammate. It's really not for anything other than a headline that I saw this morning.
Oh.
So okay. I've got the stat head pulled up on that. But I'm also going to pull a former teammate, but not a teammate. This is going to be an all-star game teammate.
Okay.
So in the 2000 all-star game, which was your first, you made it with, the likes of Tom Glavine, who we've talked about before. Trying to see if you had any teammates on here. Were you the lone Reds?
No, Barry Larkin was on that team. And Griffey.
Yep. Yeah. They were both on this team. But we've talked about those guys too.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pull somebody from that pitching staff.
Okay.
Actually, Ryan Dempster's on here representing the Marlins. That was his first All-Star game too, and we've talked about him.
Yeah. Trying to think if
Shane Reynolds of the Astros is the name. Wow.
Oh my gosh.
You can feel free to do that one. I'm going to ask you about another first-time All-Star at the time, Bob Wickman.
You saw that on a headline today? Is that what you said?
No. The next one's going to be, I'll explain the next one, but this is from the All-Star game. Yeah. Tell me about Bob Wickman and/or Shane Reynolds.
So I did play with Bob Wickman other than that All-Star game. I played with him in 2006 in Cleveland for a short amount of time. Wiki, he was a different cat. Like he's the type of guy that you would think is just a big truck driver that never is at home, just always on the road, just drinking beer and just cussing at somebody. Like he was always chappy. Like I got along with him. We got along great. But he had this like Milwaukee kind of accent. Have you ever seen Fargo?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All the people that talk like that, have that accent in Milwaukee or Minnesota, like kind of just a strong accent. He kind of talked like that. And he was always mad at somebody, Daron. Always. I don't know why. He just had that in his DNA, I guess. But the interesting thing about Wiki is he had only 3.5 fingers. I don't know if you knew that. Did you know that? Like his index finger on his throwing hand wasn't as long. Like it got cut off somehow.
Oh,
I don't remember the story. Yeah. So, and And he used to say that's why his slider was so good, because he only had like part of his index finger, so he could really get his middle finger to pull down on it. I don't know if that was really why his slider was so good, but he always made a joke about it.
Huh.
Yeah. Interesting, huh?
I wonder how that happened. Wickman, by the way, born in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So the accent you're talking about, totally
there it
checks
is.
out.
Yeah.
That's fine. And I've just got something of note on his Wikipedia profile. Bob Wickman. The photo that they have of him, it's in 2023, so he's, it's not his playing age or whatever, but he's not wearing a cap.
Oh, he's bald.
But you can tell he was wearing a cap for a very long time.
Yeah.
Before this, not because the hair's gone, but it is. But there's a line that goes across like right at the tip of his nose and underneath his eyes. And it's just like a clear line of demarcation where he's tan below it and not above it.
I got to see this.
Pull it up. That's a riot.
Yep.
That is as sharp a tan line on someone's face as I've ever seen.
Yeah. And it's funny because like he didn't want to let that go. The hair around,
I can relate.
Yeah, he didn't want to let it go.
We're going to Joe Buck the hell out of this situation when the hair starts to go. We're just plugging whatever it takes, man. Whatever it takes.
Yeah, to each his own, right? Yeah, I hear
All
you.
right, so that's good. Bob Wickman, I've got one for you.
Okay.
I do a lot with USA Baseball. Mm-hmm. We announced the 18U national team coaching staff the other day. David Eckstein is going to be an assistant on the team.
Okay. Yeah.
So I was curious. You were never teammates with Eck, but I was curious if you had ever faced him. And so I looked it up on StatHead, and there is a line. Do you remember facing David Eckstein ever?
Yeah, I do. First of all, I'll just say about David Eckstein, he was the most overachiever in the history of baseball.
I loved him for it. He was no joke, Gravy. Like I would have considered him my favorite player for most of my teens.
Yeah.
And I loved him because he had no business being a major leaguer, much less a World Series MVP. And before that, like he walked on at Florida. He had no business being a Florida Gator, but he became one. Like every turn of that dude's life was like, you've got no business being here. And he just like willed his way to it. So he's incredible.
Well, he's a hard worker. I worked out in the off season with him and his brother, Rick Eckstein, who was a hitting coach for quite some time.
Yeah. So he's on the staff with Rick, by the way, for the 18U team. Rick is the manager and David's an assistant.
Oh, nice. So we used to go do, what do you call it? I'm drawing a blank now with the needles, acupuncture. We used to do acupuncture after we'd work out. He had this special person that he took us to. So David Eckstein, I know that he has at least one double off of me. And that was actually so that was actually the game that he hit a double. So second and third and first base was open and Larry Walker was hitting behind him. So I intentionally walked Larry Walker to pitch to Albert Pujols with one out. And we got Albert to ground into a game-ending double play. But it was all after David Eckstein hits a double down the line. Yeah. So we won 5-4.
I got to humble you a little bit. Doesn't Pujols have the most ground outs into a double play in Major League history?
I don't care. Yes. But maybe most of those happened at the last 10 years of his career. This was like the first 10 years of his career.
Right.
I don't care.
This was 2005. He was. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So okay. So that was the first time you ever faced David Eckstein.
It was.
Yep. April 13th, 2005.
Yeah. In St. Louis.
It's St. Louis. It was the bottom of the ninth. He got you on a ground rule double.
Yeah.
On a 3-2 count. It scored So Taguchi. A runner advanced to third.
Yeah.
So you
second and third.
So you would have put Walker on to put them on the corners and then double up.
Well, it was second. So he hit the ground rule double. So whoever was on first, it had to have been first and second, right? So Taguchi scores from second.
Yep.
Whoever's on first is at third. Eckstein's on second. So second and third, 1 out. We're up 5-4. And Larry Walker, who had owned me, like I feel like he had a grand slam off me in 2004. Pitching coach comes out and like, what are we going to do? I said, I'd rather pitch to Pujols right now, believe it or not. He's like, let's do it. So we put Walker on, and everybody in Busch Stadium was like, oh, what an idiot. Like just going nuts because Pujols was coming up. And then first pitch, ground ball to Joe Randa at third. He steps on the bag and throws to first. Game over.
Nice.
So, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
You faced Eckstein twice more. Do you have any clue what you did against him?
2 more times after that?
Yep. Right around a month later.
Gosh. I don't remember, but I would guess that he probably got a hit back up the middle.
No, you got him both other times.
I did.
Yeah. You were in when the team was down both times, actually.
Okay.
So both in the top of the 9th inning, you got him to fly out to right when you guys were down by 1. So you were trying to stem the tide and give the team a chance to come back. And then 2 days later, they were up 7 and you were in the top of the 9th inning. Which
they were
either
up
means
7? Or we were up 7.
They were up 7.
I had to have been in to get some work because I was all in a funk, I'm sure.
Anyways, you got him to ground out to third.
Oh, nice.
So he's 1 for 3 career off of you with the extra base hit and the RBI.
Yeah. Yeah. It's weird. I remember the ground rule double, but I don't remember the times I got him out.
No, it was a save situation. That's what you remember. The save situation. All right. So now I got to look up Larry Walker. I know we did before, but I got to look up Larry Walker and see if he did in fact.
Oh, he hit a grand slam off me. That's not a question.
You mean
I just don't remember
the year before?
I think in 2004, yeah.
2004. Yeah. It was the only home run Larry Walker ever hit off of you. Wow.
A grand salami. Yeah.
He was 2 for 8 against you, and that was his only extra base hit.
Yeah, but those outs had to have been hard because I was deathly afraid of Larry Walker.
You intentionally walked him the last time you faced him, 2005.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that was what we were talking about. Yeah.
Yep.
Huh.
Thankfully, I never had to face him again. Uh-huh.
Yep. Love that.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Really good effort. Good effort there for Hall of Name. I had no idea that you had the connection with the Ecksteins either. So that's perfect. That worked out really well.
Yeah. We both lived in, he went to Lake Mary High School, and I lived kind of in the same area. I lived in Lake Mary also for a short time, but then moved right across town. So we worked out together one off season. Yeah.
That's fun. Good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. That's going to do it for ACC Baseball, etc. Yep. We've eclipsed the hour mark. We are really, really good at doing that. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. As long as people listen, then, I'll go an hour as opposed to 47 minutes or whatever the metrics say is the optimal length. It's fine. That was good stuff. I'm okay with it. All right, Danny.
Yeah.
Appreciate you as always. Have a good weekend. I've got
you too, man.
Some basketball this weekend as I'm crossing over. So some NBA G League for the first time.
That is so cool. Your brain is dribbling all over the place.
Yeah. Delaware Blue Coats, Greensboro Swarm on ESPN Plus. First NBA G League game.
By yourself too. That's amazing.
Yeah, doing that one solo, which is quirky, but that's fine. We'll be all right.
Yeah, but who's going to bring up the downtown Daron? You got to bring that up somehow. You don't have a partner to bring it up.
It's true. It'll be fine. We'll get through it.
That shot reminds me of downtown Daron. I won't tell you who that is, but you can probably put it together.
Right on. All right, we're going to run this back next week. Talk about the weekend's games. So appreciate you listening. Reminder, social media, rate, review, all that fun stuff. You know what makes this stuff tick for a top 50 baseball podcast in both the United States and Canada. Gravy.
Whoa.
The last update that I got. Number 49 in Canada.
Well, say they know we talk NHL sometimes too. So
that's got to be it. Be it.
Got to be.
All right. Let's stop rolling. We're done here. ACC Baseball Etc. Appreciate you. Much love. We'll